brain chemistry, and sex determination. And sex determination that influences the development of the individual. These biological factors are the factors that affect individuals innately, determined before, that is prenatal period, or at the time of birth. The following are some of the important biological factors influencing development. Let us go one by one, right? We begin with the hereditary and genetics. There are several physical, cognitive, and psychological characteristics which are inherited by the children from their parents. There are multiple ways. In which this genetic transmission takes place, and one needs to familiarize with the concept useful to understand this process. So let us go one by one. The first one is the genetic code. At the time of conception, sperm cells combine with the ovum to form zygote. Both the male sex cells and the female sex cells bring in their own genetic material to form a completely new combinations. That is 23 chromosomes from the sperm cell and 23 chromosomes from the ovum, combining it to make it 46 in a zygote. Right? Now, what are these chromosomes? Are thread-like structures like the nucleus of each cell, which carry the DNA, right? And these sex cells are also known as gametes, carry only 23 chromosomes unlike other cells. These sex cells are formed through a process called meiosis. A new cells from there split 2 times to get the number 23. Other cells are formed through the process of mitosis, in which they only split once, and we have 46 chromosomes. After zygote forms, it multiplies through the process and moves from the fallopian tube to the uterus. Okay? So this is how a genetic code is formed, right? Please follow page number 33 in your textbooks, right? The second aspect is the sex determination. The first 23 pairs of chromosomes are referred to as autosomes, and 23rd pair determines the sex of the child, which also becomes the sex chromosomes for the child. If the 23rd chromosomes X and X from the mother and X from the father, then it is a female child. If 23rd chromosome X and Y chromosomes from the mother and Y from the father, then it will be a male child, right? Then we move on to the genetic principle. The genotype is a term referred to the genetic material or set of genes that a person inherits. Phenotypes is the term referred to physical characteristics that are observable, like the height, the weight, the skin color, etc. There are 4 genetic principles in which needs to be understood in order to get a clear insight into the hereditary transmission process. They are dominant and recessive genes. Out of the pairs of genes inherited from the parents, the one that is dominant is exerting its influence in the dominant, and the one recessive gene is inherited, right? Inheriting brown hair always dominates the inheritance of the blonde hair. However, if both the recessive genes inherited from the parents, then blonde hair is the result of sex-linked genes. If X chromosomes is mutated, gone into 23rd pair of chromosomes, which determines the sex of the individuals, males suffer from X-linked chromosomal abnormality. Since they do not have a backup, unlike the females who have another one to support, genetic imprinting, that is the different effects of gene expressing depending on whether it is inherited from the mother or the father, is referred to genetic imprinting, right? Then there are chromosomal abnormalities. When does chromosomal abnormalities happen? The unsuccessful formation of a chromosomes during the meiosis or the inheritance of the mutated gene leads to chromosomal abnormalities, which we find commonly when there are chromosomal abnormalities. We get to see a Down syndrome baby, a condition that results in one extra chromosome, that is the 21, characterized by the round face or attended skull or extra fold of the skin over the eyelid, protruding tongue, short limbs, retardation of motor abilities, right? These are the sex-linked chromosomal abnormality called the trisomy 21, right? Also the Down syndrome children. Then there are other sex-linked chromosomal abnormalities, which include Klinefelter syndrome, a genetic disorder in which male inherit the extra copy of X chromosome, the 23rd of the YYX, which is characterized by the undeveloped testes, enlarged breast, and a tall stature, right? So genetic disorders in males with X chromosomes in the 23rd pair is either fragmented or deformed, resulting in mental retardation, right? And then we have, in some cases, it also leads to the cognitive deficits in inhibition, memory, and planning. Turner syndrome, a condition in females where the X chromosome is the 23rd pair is missing or deleted, causing infertility and difficulty in mathematics, right? However, they have a good verbal ability. XYY syndrome, a genetic disorder in which males inherit the extra copy of the Y chromosome, making 23rd pair of XYY, causing increased aggression and violence, right? And then there is PKU, that is the phenylketonuria, the genetic disorder that results in the lack of the phenylalanine metabolization, causing mental retardation and hyperactivity in the individual. These are other conditions due to genetic abnormalities like the cirrhosis, hemophilia, Huntington disease, Pina bida, and Tay-Sachs diseases, etc. Brain chemistry. Okay. Brain chemistry, different lobes of the brain are responsible for different physical and psychological functions. And the smooth functioning of these lobes is very important for survival and development of individual. The excitatory and inhibitory neurotransmitter firing also determines the responses and functioning of the person. Each and every neurotransmitter has a unique purpose to serve. For example, the serotonin is responsible for the regulation of body sleep, wakefulness, and eating disorders or eating behaviors. Moreover, this process of neurotransmission continues throughout the lifespan of the individual, which is further affected by the environmental factors the individual is put on. Therefore, the biochemical interaction in the brain definitely remains a major determinant of the development of the individual across the lifespan. And then we come to the third aspect, that is the hormones. The endocrine glands in the human body secretes hormones which affect the physiological process and psychological development of the individual. Some of the significant hormones are responsible for the growth, muscle, bone, and other tissues of the body. Adrenal gland secretes two hormones which are epinephrine and norepinephrine, responsible for fight or flight response. Thyroid gland secretes thyroxine, responsible for the body's metabolism. Pancreas secretes insulin, which is responsible for controlling of blood sugar levels. Ovaries in the female secrete progesterone and estrogen, which are the sex hormones. Testosterone in the male, sex hormone secreted by the gonads in the males and the secreted by the gonads in the male and the female. Cortisol is the stress hormone produced by the adrenal gland, which regulates the stress of the individual. In this way, there are several other hormones responsible for various functions in the human body. Hence, the secretions level of the hormones directly affect the development of the individual. Now these are all the genetic factors, right? Now we go to the psychological factors, right? Heredity and genetics are over. We move to the psychological factors. Psychological factors influencing development are also considered as environmental factors. Affecting development of these factors can be examined in detail to the stage development. Anne Trotter has defined environment, any event or condition outside the organism that is presumed to influence or to be influenced in the person's development. Any agent or factor during prenatal development causing harm to the growing embryo fetus, resulting in birth defect or any other negative cognitive or behavioral outcome is referred as the teratogen, right? Then we move to the following are the teratogen affecting the prenatal development. One of the important, some of the important teratogen drugs that affecting the prenatal development are the drugs. Prescription and non-prescription or drugs do affect growing and embryonic antiviruses and antidepressants, which may be prescribed affect that the birth outcomes. Aspirin can be one of the drugs. If used in high doses, causes neonatal bleeding, right? And then there is also deficits like heart damage, retarded growth for the baby, consumption of nicotine through smoking and other ways, right? Incompatible blood types. The incompatibility in the blood type, that is Rh type, between the mother and the growing fetus may result in miscarriage or stillbirth, anemic jaundice, heart defects, brain damage, or death of some birth. Maternal diseases. The maternal diseases and infections affect the fetus in several ways. Rubella, also known as the German measles, during pregnancy causes several implications for the baby, such as blindness, deafness, heart defects, and mental retardation. The sexually transmitted diseases, such as syphilis, may cause blindness and mental retardation or birth effects. The chances of miscarriages are also high. Acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, that is AIDS, acquired by the mother, has chances to transmitting it to the fetus, and some cases could also result in the death of the fetus. Gonorrhea affects the eyes, can also cause blindness during birth. Herpes causes damage to the eyes and the brain. Other maternal diseases such as chickenpox, hepatitis B, hypertension, influenza, mumps have several negative effects on the fetus. We move on to the environmental factors. What are the environment factors that affect the prenatal development in a distinct way, right? Some of the environmental factors would be radiation received during X-rays, environmental air pollution from industries and automobiles, pesticides and fertilizers used in food consumed, polluted water lead to several birth complications and birth defects of the babies. Maternal age. The mother's age at conception also affect the growth and the development of the baby. Adolescents and above 35 years is considered as risk factors, could cause chromosomal abnormalities and birth complication. Maternal malnutrition. During pregnancy, the mother is supposed to have a healthy nutrition food, which positively affects the growth and the development of the embryo, that is the fetus. This is because a developing embryo or the fetus depends completely on the mother for its nutrition, which comes from the mother's blood. Vitamin B are the most important nutrient for prenatal development. Malnutrition can result in miscarriage, low birth weight, and preterm babies. Obesity, on the other hand, is equally risky, resulting in birth complications and other obese diseases. Maternal stress. Maternal stress and anxiety, if it is prolonged and chronic difficulty, affects the development of the baby. If the mother is happy conceiving, the risk factors are minimized to a great extent. The recent study revealed maternal depression is linked to preterm birth and slower prenatal growth rate. Paternal factors. The father's age, that is the nutrition, lifestyle, and attitude, affects the development of the baby. The father's attitude and significant other's attitude towards the pregnant woman and towards the baby does play an important role. Men's exposure to lead to radiation, certain pesticides, petrochemicals may cause abnormalities in sperm that lead to miscarriage or diseases such as childhood cancer. Smoking habit of the father could also be dangerous to the growing fetus, as passive smoking has been proved to the risk factor in many studies. Prenatal care. Prenatal care from the mother's side is having a regular medical checkup and following doctor's advice in supporting the growth and the development of the embryo, that is the fetus, remains inevitable. Prenatal environment. This is the time during the birth process, which is very critical and demands extensive care and attention from the medical practitioners. Some of the factors in the prenatal environment affecting the development of the baby are the type of birth. There are several kinds of birth. The safest is the natural and prepared birth, where the mother pushes the baby with their effort naturally. One of the famous methods used to call it is the prepared birth is the Lame's method, where the mother is educated about the anatomy and the birth process, supported to deliver in a natural way. Other types of birth include cesarean delivery, where the baby is taken out from the uterus, making an incision in the mother's abdomen, and breech birth, in which baby is born with the buttocks. First, instead of the head, the whole process gets complicated. One of the hazardous conditions during this time is anoxia or shortage of oxygen for the baby, which could lead to brain damage, cerebral palsy, mental retardation, cognitive deficit on the severity of the conditions. Recent trends on childbirth include water birth, music therapy, massage method, etc., which have potential benefits. Medication. Medication prescribed during the labor period also have potential negative impact on the baby. Support. The emotional and physical support from the father to the mother during the labor period also has potential benefits in making the delivery process go smooth. The mother's preparedness for the delivery by dealing with the fears without the birth process aids in the process. Prenatal environment. This is a period which begins after delivery and some of the factors which affects the development in the period's arm. Physical adjustment. The way the baby adjusts to the changes in the outside environment, which includes temperature, adjustment to breathing, sucking, swallowing, elimination, determines the development of the baby. Postnatal care. In the postnatal care, timely feeding, good environment conditions, attitude of the significant others, and other factors focused around making the process of adjustment to a new world easy for the baby influences the development process. Emotional and psychological adjustment. Post-pregnancy women tend to experience postpartum depression, characterized by the feelings of sadness, anxiety, or despair. For few weeks, may continue to last for months, sometimes if untreated. Therefore, it is important to address the mother after the pregnancy as well. The process of bonding and attachment during the postnatal period remain pivotal in determining the personality of the infant in the later years. Other factors affecting development are maturation and learning. As an individual physically, cognitively, and biologically matures, an individual development is affected by these physical changes, along with the environmental factors, which include one's life experiences. Some of the examples of the life experience include abuse, death of a parent, divorce, accident, illness, etc. To what extent is the individual able to cope with the life transition and adversities, and how well they are equipped in the person to deal with them determines the development of the individual. Other factors affecting development of an individual include the socio-economic status, parenting styles, attachment, socialization process, schooling, neighborhood, religion, culture, language, and other life experiences. And now we move on to nurture versus nature versus nurture controversy in the human development. The debate of nature versus nurture has been going on for several years, and many researchers have undertaken in the field of developmental psychology to add knowledge to this domain. To elaborate on this issue, the nature versus nurture seeks to understand whether development of human being is caused by hereditary or genetics, or is it caused by environment of the individual who is placed in it. Those who support the nature idea understand development as a process of maturation, which takes place naturally as it is predetermined, and simply it has to simply unfold accordingly. On the other side, the psychologists who support the nurture idea believe that irrespective of what the hereditary makeup of the person is, the external physical, social, cultural, environmental shape his or her development. If the answer to the debate is nature, then all the children pertaining to a specific age should attain developmental milestone at the same time, which is not the case in reality. On the other hand, if the answer is nurture, then all the children placed in the same environment should develop in the same way, which is again not the same case. Therefore, the answer to this debate is not whether it is nature or nurture, but it is nature and nurture that affect the human development mutually. There are certain predispositions or genetic tendencies to develop in certain ways. However, it only develops when there is a support from the environment. For example, if a child is genetically prone to be aggressive and there is no control or modification in the child's behavior, thoughts, and environment, then the person definitely tends to have problems with aggressive behavior as he or she grows up. The following points stress on explaining that this issue of nature and nurture on human development in detail. Behavior genetics. Behavioral genetics is the school of study which contributes in understanding the role of nature and nurture on human development. Twin studies and adoption studies have been undertaken to get clarity on these issues. Studies have been conducted on identical and fraternal twins, assuming that the similarity is the highest as the possibility of the individual difference in the genetic makeup is reduced to a great extent. Results of these studies indicate that the identical twins are more similar in nature than the fraternal twins in support of the nature idea. The limitations of these studies are that the similarity in the environment was better for identical twins compared to the fraternal twins. Adoption studies also concluded to better understand the similarities of the adopted children with biological parents and adopted parents. Also, in some cases, the siblings who were raised with the biological family and adopted family separately. Hereditary environment relationship. Hereditary environment relationship extend to several aspects of development, and there are three ways in which this relationship can be explained in detail. That is, passive genotype environment correlation. This type of interaction explains about correlation between parents' own genetic predisposition and the environment created by them for the children. Hence, the genetic tendencies of the children get nurtured by the environment they are put in. For example, parents who are sociable not only enjoy socializing, but also attend many parties to connect with people. On the other hand, children not only inherit the sociable tendency, but also tend to be part of the environment which nurtures socialization. It is passive in nature and there is no deliberate effort to create this kind of environment. Right? The next one is the evocative genotype environment correlation. This correlation explains about how there are certain qualities, traits, precisely the genotypes of the child's demands to a certain kind of environment. For example, a child who is bubbly and active tends to attract more people versus a child who is shy and reserved, active, genotype environment correlation. This correlation is concerned with child's genotype actively seeking out, choosing the environment he or she wants. For example, if a child loves to be with people, she attends all the family parties, social gatherings, and find various ways to reach out to people. Shear and McCartney suggests the balance of all these three types of genotype environment correlations are important for the child's development, and each type contribute in its own way. Shared and non-shared environmental experience. To further dwell into the concept of gene-environment interaction, it is imperative to understand the shared and the non-shared environment. Shared environment includes experiences which is shared by the siblings commonly. Example, parents' expertise in a field of knowledge, socio-economic status, neighborhood, etc. Non-shared environment include different experiences the siblings have, which have unique and individualistic perception. For example, perception of a parent's attitude towards them, schooling experience, relationship with friends, etc. Both of this environment play a key role in influencing the development of the individual. Epigenetic view. This concept of development explains the role of genes and the role of environment being equally important in influencing the development of individuals throughout his or her lifespan. Moreover, this gene-environment relationship is described as bidirectional and ongoing. So this is now the second unit that we have completed. It's all about human development, such a mysterious and complex process that in spite of getting insight into the biological and environmental factors that affect development, it does not give us a complete picture of what exactly the development or the changes of the human being from birth to death, right? So I conclude this. You can refer to this, your textbook, which has a beautiful summary. You can check your progress as model answers that has been given in a very, very crisp way, right? They are given you in a crisp way all about how the different environments affects the development and how malnutrition and behavior genetics and shared and non-shared elements also affects the human development. You have model examination questions. Please refer them and read it. If you read once, twice, you'll be able to understand it better, right? Now we move on to the unit number 4, right? Block 2, unit number 4 and page 46, right? Unit number 4 covers prenatal development. What is the objective of this unit? The objective of the unit is to identify the different characteristics, patterns of behavior of each stage of the prenatal development. Explain the different stages of prenatal development. Describe the development course in each stage of prenatal development. Comprehend how environment and hereditary work together to determine human characteristics. And the last part is to become aware of the hazards in the prenatal development and what can be done about them. Okay, so let's go in brief. These objectives, I am on page number 46. Okay, so if you have your books, you please follow the page. Life begins in a reproductive system on the female. Conception usually occurs during a woman's ovulation period within a few days. During this time, the female ovaries release an ovum, and if fertilizes, will develop into a new human. The name natal in prenatal means birth period. So prenatal implies birth, that is right from the point of fertilization to childbirth. And this encompasses 38 weeks or approximately 9 months of the gestation or pregnancy. Prenatal development is also referred as antenatal development. During this time of 38 weeks, the new human organism changes in many ways. The prenatal stage can be divided into 3 phases, and each phase carries its own significance and importance in the development. Okay, and now these are the period of zygote, the period of the embryo, and the period of fetus. We will examine in detail. What are the characteristics of the prenatal period? The prenatal development is considered an important part of the development process. Prenatal development is also called antenatal development. It begins at conception and ends at birth. So approximately 270 days to 280 days in length of the calendar of 9 months. The important characteristics of prenatal development are the hereditary endowment, which serves as the foundation for the later development, is fixed one and for all in this period. Favorable conditions in the mother's body can foster development of hereditary potentials, while unfavorable conditions can even arrest their development. The sex of the newly created individual is fixed at the time of conception. Proportionally, greater growth and development takes place during the prenatal period than at any other time during the individual's entire life. During this time, the individual grows from microscopically a small cell to an infant who measures approximately 20 inches in length and weighs on an average of 3 to 3.5 kgs. Development is rapid during this period. The prenatal period is a time of many hazards, both physical and psychological. This can be marked effect on the pattern of later development or may even bring the development to an end. Okay, so let's take up now the periods, the different periods of the prenatal area. The period of the zygote. What is the period of the zygote? The period of the zygote starts from conception to the end of the second week, where the egg or the ovum slowly travels through the fallopian tube. And if sperms are present at the location, one may unite within the ovum in the process, which is called fertilization. Only one sperm can enter the eggs in the outer membrane. The moment the sperm penetrates the egg, conception occurs, creating a new and a separate cell called the zygote. Kindly read the details, right? I'm just giving you a brief idea about the period of the zygote, okay? And the fertilized egg, that is the zygote, right, begins with one cell and now begins to divide. The division to produce two cells takes place 24 to 36 hours after fertilization. The cells divide first to form a ball of cells called morula, which they develop into blastocyst that involves the formation of a cavity with the morula. The cells in the course of dividing travel down the fallopian tube and enter the womb, where the blastocyst implants itself on the wall of the uterus. This happened 5 to 6 days after the fertilization. During the next 5 to 7 days, the blastocyst establishes a primitive placenta in circulation, thus ensuring the supply of nutrients and oxygen essential for its continued development. The possible hazards during this period is due to insufficient glandular hormone or lack of proper balance between the glands and the ovaries of the mother. The blastocyst may not get implanted and it dies. Okay, then we move on to the next period, the period of the embryo. The period of the embryo lasting from the 3rd to the 8th week. 3 crucial structures develop from the fertilized egg to protect and sustain the growing life within the mother's uterus. The amniotic sac, the placenta, and the umbilical cord. The amniotic sac contains amniotic fluid, a watery liquid in which the developing embryo floats, and thus it serves as a protective buffer. The tendrils and the attached embryo to the uterine will increase in size and complexity to form a fleshy disc like the structure called the placenta. The embryo is joined to the placenta at the abdomen by the umbilical cord, a tube that contains blood vessels to carry oxygen and nutrients to growing baby and remove carbon dioxide and waste products. During the embryonic period, the inner mass of the new organism differentiates into 3 layers. The ectoderm, the outer layer from which develops skin, hair, nail, and so on. The mesoderm is a eustachian tube, lungs, pancreas, salivary glands, and such develop. Many important external and internal features start to grow and function. The heart, although only 2-chambered, begins to beat and the blood is circulated around the embryo by the end of 3rd week. This enables the removal of the waste and acquisition of nutrients. As all these body organs begin to form during this period, it is considered the most critical stage of development. The potential danger of this period is if the embryo does not get enough protection and nourishment, there could be a miscarriage or a malformation. We move on to the period of fetus. What is the period of fetus? The final period of prenatal development starts at the end of 8 weeks to birth. Internal and external features continue to grow. This period is marked by continued development and differentiation of structures that emerged during the embryonic period. Basic structure that were laid down in the embryonic period are refined and they grow into the final form. Very few new structures appear. It is during this period that the origins of motor, sensory, and learning behavior are to be formed. This period is safer than the period of the embryo, but not free from hazard. By the end of the 4th month, the mother feels the fetus movement. At around 5th month, reflexes such as sucking, swallowing, hiccuping usually appear. During the 5th month, at 22 weeks, the fetus weighs a little over 1 pound, is about 1 foot length. The fetus also shows sensitivity to light and can be stimulated and irritated. Although there are few cases of infants being born and surviving at this time, the chances of survival and the absence of the later complications are very slim. Between the 4th and the 6th month, most of the organs were formed during the first trimester begins to function. If born at this time, the fetus has a chance survival. The point at which it can first to survive is referred to as the age of being visible and occurs sometime 22 and 26 weeks. During the 7th month, the fetus is only 3 pounds and the 7th month old fetus has few pounds to gain before reaching the average of 7.5 pounds. During this time, the brain continues to develop at an increasingly fast rate. By 7 months, the fetus clearly responds to sound outside the womb and develops preference for the tone and the rhythm of mother's voice. By 8th month, the fetus has little room for the large movement. A layer of fat is added that will assist the temperature regulation. The lungs, however, still remains immature. If born at this time, the infant will likely require some help with breathing. It is not until the 9th month the lungs are mature enough to regulate breathing without assistance. During the last months of gestation, the baby continues to grow at the rate of half to 1 pound per week. The lungs are maturing in preparation for the first birth. The baby will turn around in the womb to a head down position at birth. Hazards of prenatal development. The unborn child is not free from different risk factors. Even in the mother's womb, the fetus is unprotected if adequate care is not taken into account. Okay, what are the following risk factors? There is a beautiful table that is given here on page number 50. You can see it. There is on one side, you have the teratogens, maternal factors, and the birth hazards. So go through each one of them, which we have already gone through, and ensure that you read up each one for better understanding, right? Each one, it's very clearly given what are the risk factors during the prenatal development, right? And then you can see that each of it is given a full detail explained on the page number 51. Okay, and then there is maternal factors where the physical condition, the age, and the diet, of the mother, and the RH factor, diseases, disorders, right? And the different aspects of the birth hazards are being given. When you come to the page number 54, you will find a summary which is given in a very crisp manner. What is the prenatal development and how it is divided, what happens during the prenatal development, and what are the hazards during the prenatal development is all given on the page number 54, right? And then you come to the check your process where the model answers are there, very beautifully given in 1, 2, 3, 4 in a serial order about the period of the zygote, the embryonic period, right? And the anexia condition of the brain, the environmental agents that produce abnormalities in the development of the fetus. And then you have the model questions, right? Model questions are given, right? Try to answer the model questions. There are multiple choice questions. Fill up the blanks, and then you have glossary very clearly given. In the glossary, you have all the difficult words that is given in with explanations on the side, right? So you go through all this, and then you are also given further readings. Okay, my students, please go through this chapter completely. So today we complete unit number 2 and unit number 3, that is the factors influencing development, wherein we saw the biological factors, psychosocial factors, nurture versus nurture controversy, right? And then we also saw the prenatal development. Please go through it, right? Unit number 3 from page 32 onwards, and then go page by page very clearly and in a detailed manner. Explanations are given. There are also, questions for you to check your progress, right? So as you continue to read, right, page number 37, 38, you complete the unit number 3, and unit number 3 is also having a summary that talks about, different, this one, and then you are checking the progress. So 3 and 4. So today in session 2, we have chapter 3 and chapter 4 that is completed for us. And then later on, we move to unit number 5 that will be on infancy and childhood development, right? So this is basically what is supposed to be learning today. I hope you will go through each of the units in details. Please learn to understand. Do not try to mug up. It will be difficult for you. Certain words you need to remember. So these are small tips that I would like to give you. Don't wait till the last moment to study for exams. Each day today, as we completed unit 3 and unit 4, go through it in a very slow manner. Again and again, read through the chapters, try and understand, keep a pencil and a book, try to make some notes as you read upon, so that you'll be able to remember, right? And then so that when the examination time comes, you will have a better recall value and a retention value. So please go through it in a very systematic way. Today we did 3 and 4. So note down in your books, go through the textbooks in details, note down the important. I don't need to give any important questions because after every chapter, there is the checking the progress, there is model questions, and there is also fill in the blanks, and there is multiple choice too, right? So try and fill up those things, try and read up. When you read up the whole chapters, you'll be able to have better understanding of the chapter, and you'll also be able to remember, and it will also give you confidence. See, when we don't touch the book now, and we try to touch the book only at the end, that is during the examination time, you will find it very, very difficult, right? So I encourage you, each of you, to go through this, both the units, study well, keep a notebook and a pen, and try to make notes, try to reread, and try to refresh yourself, and stay in touch with the textbook so that you are able to, write your exams well. Until we meet for the next class, where we will move on and continue with the Unit 5, which will talk about infancy, and Unit 6, that will talk about the childhood development. That's all for today. You have any questions, anything, please come with that in the next class, where you can ask, and I will see how I can address that and how I can help you understand, or how I can guide you to be able to read and write your exams well. So that's all for today, my students. I'm happy that you are able to, learn this in a systematic way. So we continue and we'll stay in touch for the next class. Thank you and God bless you. I have basically planned the sessions in such a way so that by the end of the 6th class, we should be able to cover up all the 12 units. And that is why I have taken 2 units per class. So maybe you will find it, I'm moving a little fast. I'm basically giving you an overview of the unit. So you have to go through the detail and study for yourself, right? And if there are questions, we can always revert back and get back so that we can help you and will be able to guide you. So I hope by the end of the 6th class, we should be able to cover all the 12 units. And yesterday we have done 1 and 2. Today we have done 3 and 4. And the next we will do 5 and 6. So that's all for today's session.